I think it's important that we all go back to the ideal judge is one that is impartial, that has integrity, and understands that their job is to apply the laws given to them through the representatives of the people faithfully and without prejudice. And we are very excited about your nomination. And personally, let me just say, as a former federal prosecutor myself, I was grateful that someone with that background, that both had extensive experience in federal courts, not only prosecuting within the district court, but in appeals as well.
What's up, Patriots? Welcome back to Right View Nation, the loudest, proudest, most unapologetic voice for truth, freedom, and the Constitution. Today we're talking about someone who the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear from. Someone who isn't afraid to go head-to-head with the radical left, who's unshaken by the woke mob, and who has the guts to speak out while others stay silent. I'm talking about Florida's fearless fighter, Senator Ashley Moody. Let me tell you something. Ashley Moody is everything the modern left hates. She's bold. She's principled. She's smart. And most importantly, she fights for America. Let's start by talking about who Ashley Moody really is.
Good to be with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to your family for being here, colleagues from the office, the Department of Justice that are here to support you. We are excited about your nomination and thank President Trump for making this important nomination. I'm guessing from some of my colleagues on this hearing that they forgot that there are some Democratic judges that were escorting people out of the courtroom in secrecy because they didn't believe with what law enforcement was trying to achieve, and some Democratic appointed judges that are ignoring the Supreme Court orders at the moment. The hypocrisy continues to shock me. I've been here a hot second on this Judiciary Committee, and I think it's important that we all go back to the ideal judge is one that is impartial, that has integrity, and understands that their job is to apply the laws given to them through the representatives of the people faithfully and without prejudice. And we are very excited about your nomination. And personally, let me just say, as a former federal prosecutor myself, I was grateful that someone with that background, that both had extensive experience in federal courts, not only prosecuting within the district court, but in appeals as well, was being nominated. I believe those that are charged with the responsibility of taking cases brought to them by law enforcement, and they are charged with pursuing justice in a court of law, which may mean someone's liberty is taken away. That is very a heavy responsibility, and one that after they are charged with that does not take lightly. And I heard you previously explaining how you took that very seriously, and you believe that justice is sometimes the consideration of making sure it's not heavy-handed when it wasn't intended to be. I thought it was interesting, one of my colleagues' remarks, they thought it was important to point out that someone described you as a partisan that wields the law as a weapon, when in fact you have spent a lot of time fighting against that, as many of us watched in horror as the justice system was turned into a political weapon. And I thought I might just give you, and I wanted to go back to who you are and your background. You've got thrown into the limelight in a very politically charged situation, not of your own making, but one that you were willing to fight against. And prior to that, I think it's important that not just my colleagues, but the American people understand your background. You clerked for a federal judge, you clerked a district court judge, you clerked for an appellate judge, you served as an intern in different capacities, You were the lead prosecutor in numerous federal trials. I would like for you to take a moment and tell us how your background would repudiate all of the aspersions and accusations that have been charged against you this morning. Because again, as someone who has also served in that capacity, where you're given the responsibility to, on behalf of the people, on behalf of the United States of America, seek justice and potentially taking away someone's liberty, tell us about your background and how that bears on your respect for the court, its need to be impartial, and your background and how that will prepare you to faithfully apply the rule of law.
Thank you, Senator, and I appreciate the kind words. It's, I believe, a very solemn obligation to accept a position on the federal bench, especially an appellate position, because of the obligation to enforce the rule of law without fear of favor and declare what the law is, but exercise restraint and not make policy decisions. And I think that I'm equipped to do that because over the course of my career, as you suggested, I have studied just about every single angle of a courtroom as a paralegal, a law clerk, a trial lawyer, and an appellate lawyer. If I were lucky enough to be confirmed, I would understand as an appellate judge what things look like at a trial. But I also understand from having been inside an appellate judge's chamber, having been privileged to do that, how the appellate decision-making process can work and what it's like to have to build consensus with a panel and a group of people. And I think all those things would sort of bear on my judgment and my practice if I'm lucky enough to be confirmed. But I think really the most important thing is the ability to exercise independent judgment in the face of great scrutiny and criticism. And I am doing my best to explain why I've endeavored to do that throughout my career today. And I think there's one moment in my life where I was really called upon to do that and make a hard decision that I'm glad I did. And that was to join Mr. Blanche to help represent the president at a time when my friends and even some people in my family, my work colleagues, told me that there was every reason to think I would get fired, I would be bankrupt, we would be indicted, all manner of evil and negative consequences were sort of foisted and thrown at Todd and I regularly as we had to make a decision that many others didn't have the courage to make, to stand up for what was right. And people comment on that as some kind of political decision. That's not what that was in the summer of 2023. At that time, for me, and I think for Todd, that was a decision to fight for what was right and fight for the rule of law. And if I'm fortunate enough to become a judge, I will abide by that standard, applying the rule of law every single day.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you, Mr.
She's not some Ivy League elitist who hides behind platitudes and political correctness. She's a former federal prosecutor, a conservative constitutionalist, and a woman who actually understands that her job is to defend the laws of this country, not rewrite them to fit a leftist agenda. She's gone after criminal cartels, tackled human trafficking, and put the rights of everyday Americans above the demands of woke corporations and radical activists. And guess what? She's been consistent every step of the way. While Democrats were busy making excuses for rioters burning down American cities, Ashley Moody was standing up for law and order. While the Biden administration was handing our border over to the drug cartels, Ashley Moody was calling them out, loud and clear. That's what real leadership looks like, folks. Let's not forget, Ashley Moody has been one of the loudest voices challenging Joe Biden's disastrous policies. She didn't just tweet about the border crisis. She took action. She led the charge, suing the Biden administration for completely abandoning its duty to enforce immigration law. And while the White House was busy pretending everything was fine, she was exposing the reality. Fentanyl pouring into our neighborhoods, human smuggling skyrocketing, and American lives being lost. All because the left wants open borders and future voters, not national security. Ashley Moody isn't just defending Florida. She's defending the entire nation from the reckless incompetence of the radical left. And that is why the left hates her. Because she holds up a mirror to their failures, and they can't handle what they see. Here's another reason Ashley Moody deserves our unwavering support. While the left pushes drag shows into classrooms, forces gender ideology down children's throats, and tries to criminalize parents for protecting their kids, Ashley Moody is standing up for families. She's fighting to protect children from online predators. She's cracking down on human trafficking. She's defending parental rights while the left calls them domestic terrorists. Let that sink in. Ashley Moody believes that parents should raise their kids, not government bureaucrats, not public school radicals, and not the alphabet soup of woke agencies trying to erase parental authority. She's drawing a line in the sand. And folks, it's about damn time someone did. We all remember what happened when woke corporations started threatening states that passed common-sense laws, from election security to child protection. Big companies like Disney thought they could bully Florida into submission. Guess what? Ashley Moody wasn't having it. She stood shoulder to shoulder with Governor DeSantis and declared, "Enough is enough." She's not interested in corporate virtue signaling. She's not here to kiss up to ESG billionaires or globalist think tanks. She's here to defend the people who elected her, the patriots, the workers, the moms and dads who still believe this country is worth fighting for. That, my friends, is what real representation looks like. So let's ask the obvious question. Why is Ashley Moody constantly targeted by the mainstream media? Why does the left lose its mind every time she speaks out? Simple, because she's effective. She exposes their lies. She challenges their illegal policies. And worst of all to them, she wins. Ashley Moody is one of the few leaders left in this country who hasn't sold her soul to the DC machine. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't fold. And she sure as hell doesn't apologize for standing up for America. She is a nightmare for progressives because she's everything they aren't. Senator Moody, if you're watching this, thank you. Thank you for fighting when others caved. Thank you for standing tall when the mob tried to cancel you. Thank you for reminding us that real leadership still exists in this country. And to all my fellow patriots watching from home, we've got to stand behind Ashley Moody with everything we've got. Because leaders like her don't come around often. And when they do, the swamp does everything in its power to destroy them. We can't let that happen. If you believe in law and order, hit that like button. If you support leaders like Ashley Moody who take on Biden's lawlessness and win, hit that subscribe button. And if you're ready to defend our children, our borders, and our Constitution, drop a comment below and say, "We stand with Moody." This is Right View Nation. We don't whisper the truth, we shout it. We're not backing down, and we're sure as hell not backing off. God bless Ashley Moody. God bless the state of Florida. And God bless the United States of America.